Welcome to Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah, and you're watching Diaspora Network Television. I am joined by two amazing personalities, both from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. First, let me welcome Dr. Sandi William, founder of A Wealth of Women in the States and in Ghana. Welcome, Dr. Williams.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And welcome, Dr. Vincent Curtis. You are starting a very important project called African Americans for Joe Biden. Is that correct?
Yeah, African American men for Joe Biden.
African American men for Joe Biden. Very good. Welcome. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Well, maybe we can get Dr. Sandi Williams to take the women's hand of the project so we're complete, right?
Okay, no problem.
Very good. Okay, welcome. Today we have a lot to talk about. We have George Floyd, we have COVID-19, we have the elections coming up. But first, we want to start by getting to know you. Let me start, Dr. Sandi Williams. Who is Dr. Sandi Williams?
Okay, I'm a psychologist by profession, and I'm African. I'm African. My mother hails from the Cameroon, and I found that out through my DNA testing through African.com. And my father hails from Nigeria. So I'm really excited to be able to associate myself directly with the continent of Africa. So, I'm committed to the movement.
Go ahead, please.
No, I said that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. I'm committed to, Pan-Africanism and the unification of all people of African descent.
Okay, and Dr. Curtis?
Okay, I'm not quite a doctor, but I have been blessed with a little formal education. I am the originator of the African American Men for Joe Biden. That's our number one project right now. I was born here in Philadelphia. I too am an African, but I was born in Philadelphia. My ancestors come from Ghana, and I'm an Akan. And
you're an Akan.
So I was born. And I was born here, so I was fortunate enough to acquire one a Bachelor of Science in Organization Development, Business, and 3 master's degrees in education. And so, I've had a wonderful life so far. And now I'm at the apex of doing something that falls on the next level. So I really appreciate you.
Before we go ahead, Dr. Williams already has her Ghana name. She's called Efia, right? If I remember correctly?
Yes,
Efia. Good. Mr. Curtis, what day of the week does your birthday fall on?
Wednesday. I was born on Wednesday.
So do you know what your Ghana name is? Since you're an Akan.
Yes, it's begin with a K.
Kweku. There you are. So I've got a Kweku and I've got an Efia, right? All right. Is it okay? Listen, is it okay if I use those names for the rest of the program? There
Absolutely. And I am proud to finally know who I am.
There you go.
I'm so proud.
Is it okay if I use Kweku and Efia for the rest of the programming? Because right now we're going to talk about. All right. Now, Kweku, you have African American men for Joe Biden. And Mr. Biden said something for which he has apologized, that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black enough. There is some truth in that, isn't it?
No, I didn't hear that particular quote. from Biden.
What's that?
I'll be perfectly honest. My focus is for the unification of people of African descent. Now, Vice President Biden happened to be the nomination of the Democratic Party here in the United States. But our number one priority is to unseat Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump. If if Sanders would have won, we're still going to unseat Donald J. Trump. However, Biden, like most, we've never had a perfect president when it comes to African American needs. So he can make some mistakes.
But let's face it, with what Mr. Trump has done, he has drawn a line in the sand. Everybody knows where he stands. And so if you're Black and you still go ahead and vote for him, I can understand the ideological argument. Yes, I'm a conservative, whatever. But this man ain't no conservative. This man is anti-Black. So what's wrong with what Mr. Biden said?
Well, again, unfortunately, everybody has advisors. Biden's not Black either. And so, a lot of people are into the mode of trying to be politically correct. But again, it's not so much what Biden thinks about us, it's what we think about ourselves.
Okay, very good. Dr. Williams, Ifia, you are into coaching, right? What should we know about coaching as African people?
I think as African people, when we think about coaching, the first level of coaching is to know who you are. See, because coaching is all about elevation and enlightening yourself to be the very best you can be, to be the very best of creation that you can possibly be, and actually live your very best life. In order to do that, from the coaching perspective, with respect to African Americans, we have to begin that ladder of elevation by first knowing who we are and where we come from. And that is the importance of the whole unification piece, because we have to associate ourselves back to the motherland to even begin to understand the richness of the continent. And that itself will allow us to move up that elevation ladder. Because most of us in America, African, if you ask us where we're from, we may say Philadelphia or New York or California or wherever. But once you begin that core, the first level of the elevation process, and you know where you're from, then your first response to that will be, I'm African, I'm from Africa. And that itself does something on a spiritual level that helps elevate you.
Okay. All right. So coaching starts with knowing yourself.
Absolutely. Coaching starts with knowing yourself, because people come to my office all the time and they don't have the faintest idea. They don't even know themselves. They don't love themselves enough, right, to even begin the process of elevation. So it starts with loving, and you can love yourself by knowing yourself.
Okay, so when you did the ancestry test and you found out that your background is from Nigeria and Cameroon, that adds to knowing yourself. Did it do anything different to you, or it didn't make any difference?
Oh, it did. I mean, when I first, no, it changed my life, because now I realize that I'm associated with a people much greater than I ever knew. See, because here in America, we're so used to focusing on Americans, and the media doesn't do a good job at really talking, appreciating, and explaining the riches of the continent of Africa. So not being associated with that, you don't have it's their connection. But once you know that, then it just changes you forever. It changes you forever.
Okay. All right. Mr. Kweku, and there's something going on in America where the Confederate monuments are coming down. The flag, Mississippi just voted to eliminate the Confederate flag from the state's emblem. And just right now, it just came down the wires that the mayor of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, just invoked an executive order to bring down the monuments. Now, I'm going to tell you a story, a personal one, okay? I was at the fuel station in Houston. I was buying fuel, and a bunch of bikers came, also to buy fuel. One of them was wearing a jacket with a Confederate flag on it, boldly at the back of it. Now, I knew what it meant, okay? But I tried to play a reverse psychology on him. I went up to him and said, wow, that's a nice jacket. Where did you get that? And homeboy was so confused. He didn't know, because he thinks that as a black man, when I see a Confederate flag, it's supposed to get me angry. But I walk up to him and I was like, wow, that's really nice. Where did you get that? And he was dumbfounded. He was just completely thrown off. So my question is, instead of getting upset about these monuments, why don't we play reverse psychology on them, and maybe it'll lose its relevance?
Well, the reality of it is that the statue itself is not the issue. The issue is the statutes, the laws that support the statues. You see, it's the spiritual principles that allow the statue to be put up is what the conflict is. So until America changes its statutes and its constitution, it's an offense to African Americans.
Okay. So now that they're coming down, do you think the monuments may come down, but some may think the minds, you can change what's in people's mind. So would that make any difference?
Without a doubt, because it's not about, at this level of the transformation that's required amongst African Americans, we are creating a new norm. And therefore, we cannot wait for America to tell us what our values are, who our heroes are, who our leaders are. What we have to do now is come together, the 37 million of us that live in America, and once we unite, we're gonna have some power. And once we have some power, we have some influence. But we have to and must unite as one. And only until then will things begin to change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, but the point I'm saying is, when you get the Confederate flags out of the official places such as state capitals and stuff, now more of them are going to fly those flags on their lawn. You can't change that. What would that do?
Right. Well, nothing. See, one thing African Americans got to learn how to do: avoid distractions. You see what I'm saying? Avoid distractions. We need to be about the business of building our own connections. One of the things we wanted to do is develop a connection with the continent. See, we should be about the business of being advocates for people of color around the world, especially Africa, because that's where we originated from.
Okay.
You see.
Okay. Ifya, let me come back to you. You have been in Ghana, right?
Yes.
Many times, you said. All right. The first time you set foot in Ghana, what was it like?
Well, actually, the first time I stepped foot in Ghana, I came because I was attending a funeral, right? I came to attend a funeral. And for me, let me see, the first feeling that I felt was, I'm going to say disbelief. And I say that because I have never, that was my first experience of looking across a horizon of people who look just like me. So it was a little bit startling to see it. And the funeral that I attended was a couple of thousands of people, and they were they all looked like me. So I think when it sunk in for the first time, I can honestly say, not the first time, I don't want to use that word, but in real time, I'll say that I felt proud to be.
Okay. So that feeling you got, right, where you land at a place and everybody looks like you. The president is Black, the pilot is Black, the manager. It basically, who is who in this country is Black. it gave you a
Yes.
sense of, feeling of belonging. Now, there are those who say that when Africans live our life in this environment and then we come to America, we carry that with us. Do you think there is that difference? And so if you imagine yourself if you grew up here where everybody was Black and you had that can-do spirit, do you think it makes a difference? Maybe that's the chip that Africans have on their shoulder, if you would, in the state. Do you see that?
Well, this is what I see.
Mhm.
When I grew up in a fairly, I'm gonna say a normal family, I guess. I mean, mom and dad were there, and educated family.
Mhm.
I can honestly say I didn't necessarily grow up feeling with high self-esteem, because we grew up in a neighborhood that was, basically multiracial, and we were still
Mhm.
Negroes. We were still Black
Right.
people. And my parents were educated, but we were still Black people. So I think Africans have an advantage because
Okay.
you grew up feeling good about who you were from the very beginning. We didn't grow up
Okay.
feeling good about ourselves from the beginning. So I
Okay.
think that, believe it or not, Africans, although a lot of them think that they want to get to America, really,
Mhm.
your best avenue is Africa, because
Okay.
Africans don't have the experience of growing up with people of another color thinking that they're better than you, because you're with your own people all the time.
Okay.
So I think Africans have. So I think come with the chip, because maybe you coming with the chip on your shoulder will allow us to realize on our end that we have no reason to not feel good about ourselves.
Okay. So, Kweku, if that is an advantage, what do you say about African Americans who have pretty much written off Africa, don't want to come here, don't want to hear about it?
Well, basically, as I mentioned earlier, in this society of America, I was a Cub Scout, a Boy Scout, a high school graduate, a college graduate, ordained. I'm a combat disabled veteran. Been married, raised 6 children. They all were from college. Been a business person on many different fronts, but yet to this day, I've never been extended the American privilege. This country has always made me less than. See, one of the things that African Americans have to understand is that most white people think that they're supposed to have a better house, a better car, a better education, a better neighborhood, a better swimming pool, a better church. There's a certain lack of they have a certain entitlement thing. We call it white privilege. What African Americans do is learn about Black privilege or African privilege. So our best return on our life is if we take our resources, our skills, our money, and invest it in Africa, because only until you go home will you feel a level of comfort that you've never experienced in America. I don't care what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you live in. I've been blessed. I've had all that. But yet and still, when I leave my neighborhood, I got to always be alert, because my primary purpose is to return back home.
Okay. You mentioned white
Right.
privilege, right? You mentioned white privilege. Is it real? Is there any such thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
I can give you 1,000 examples, but go ahead.
Okay. So we also hear the term white supremacy, right?
Right.
Okay. So if the same people believe that they have a certain privilege, meaning an advantage, right? Then does that support the very concept of white supremacy? Because it seemed to me that we're playing football and one team is playing with 11 people and the other team is playing with 9, and the team with 11 people win, the team with 11 players win, and they're claiming supremacy when the playing field is not leveled. I mean, do you get where I'm coming from? If you acknowledge white privilege, should you be entitled to also claim white supremacy?
Okay, let me give you a quick story.
Mm-hmm.
In 2000, I was in Johannesburg, South Africa, and I was in the mall. And so I was in this line waiting to be serviced. So I must have been standing in line for about 15 or 20 minutes. This white Afrikaner come in, he walks ahead of the whole line, and the guy who worked in the store stopped serving our line and went to his line. And I said to the guy, wait a minute, he has to get in the line like the rest of us. And the room got quiet. Everybody in line. The guy who worked there, like he was scared to death. And I turned to the white guy and said, excuse me, sir. The line starts in the rear. He turned red and some more colors and just left the store. People started clapping for me.
Interesting.
They started, the blacks, the Africans started clapping.
What year was this? What year was this?
2000. The year 2000, Johannesburg.
At that time, apartheid was over. So why was that still the case?
It was over. But the people themselves are still caught up in that condition. You see, talking to people over 40 is hard to grasp a new idea on a closed mind. And a lot of people live so long a certain way, they think they're supposed to submit to white people just because they're white.
Interesting.
So all over the world.
Can I add something to that conversation?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just thinking about white privilege, first of all, that was the outstanding, Mr. Curtis, just an outstanding example. But I just want to kind of talk about between white privilege and white supremacy, okay? So from a psychological perspective, white privilege is an unconscious acceptance, right? That you're supposed to get something before someone else. So there's Black people who are unconsciously feeding into white privilege. They see a white person and they step back. They see a white person and they step back. They believe that the white person looks better, lives better than them, unconsciously, just as a part of being in America, right? So, but you don't necessarily have to accept, have this unconscious acceptance of white privilege and be a white supremacist, because white supremacy is a conscious belief that you're better. See, so where white privilege is unconscious, white supremacy is a conscious belief that you are better. So it's people who are, you see what I'm saying? There's a difference. Now there is an overlap where you can believe in white privilege and be a white supremacist, but it's not someone who believes in, who thinks they are entitled to white privilege may not be a supremacist.
I understand that, but the point I'm trying to say is this: if you acknowledge that white privilege exists and you are Caucasian, then you know that you have certain built-in advantages, built-in societal advantages for you, right? If you agree to that, then you should not agree or subscribe to the concept of white supremacy, because if an advantage is built for you, you are going to invariably do better than people who don't have that advantage. So then the very concept of supremacy should not even be talked about. That's pretty much what I'm saying, and I wanted your opinion about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. But also keep in mind again that white privilege is unconscious. You just automatic, because it's built into the very system of where we live. It's systematic. White privilege here is systematic, right? So you're absolutely right. You have a realization that white privilege is denying somebody else their right for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then of course you can reject white supremacy.
Oh, very good.
As the national regulator of the communications industry in Ghana, the National Communications Authority seeks to ensure an environment that is safe and fair for consumers and service providers. NCA grants licenses and authorizations for operation of communication systems and services, develops guidelines to streamline communication activities, establish and monitor quality of service indicators for operators and service providers. NCA is in 8 regions: Accra, Tamale, Takoradi, Kumasi, Ho, Koforidua, Sunyani, and Bolgatanga. Do you have unresolved complaints with your service providers? Contact us on 0800110662, 0307011419 between the hours of 8 o'clock a.m. and 5 o'clock p.m. from Monday to Friday, or visit our website at www.nca.org.gh and follow the procedure for filing a complaint or submitting enquiry. National Communications Authority, communications for development.
We wake up every morning to different stories from politics, business, sports, and entertainment. These stories, one way or the other, affect our lifestyle and dealings with family, friends, and business associates. Your take on Diaspora Network Television gives you an opportunity to have your take on these pertinent issues via phone in and messages to our social media platforms, DNT Ghana on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If it's an important trending story, we will definitely talk about it. Your take with me, Yalsichi, on DNT.
Would you buy anything without first knowing exactly what the product was and how it could benefit you? Definitely not. Neither should you vote for your next member of parliament without knowing who they are and how they plan to solve your problems. Watch The Next MP only on Diaspora Network Television and find out the men and women who want to represent you in parliament. The Next MP only on DNT.
Peku, I want to talk to you about 2020, November. Right now, your man, Joe Biden, is ahead by 9 points in the national polls. But some are saying that that's where Hillary was right about the same time. Well, she was ahead by about 6 points. So they think the polls can be wrong again.
Well, again, you had to remember. You had to remember that, first of all, America is white. That's number one. We only represent 14% of the population here in America. I'm talking about African Americans, okay, and Black people. Now, let me give you an example. There is enough African Americans alone to sway the election.
Okay.
There's enough African Americans to sway the election. If the African Americans didn't vote, Biden would lose. It's just that simple.
That's correct.
So you can't read the polls because even though Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, she lost the electoral college vote. So it's like a dual system here. Some people believe it, some people don't. My position is everybody needs to vote to unseat Trump. And they can't allow it.
Okay.
There's a lot more white people on welfare in America than there are Black people. There's more white people doing bad than Black people. However, there's a certain type of humanity, see, that's the difference. When I first went to Africa, it was a feeling, it was the best high that I ever had. And I don't get high. But if you just imagine a joy, man, like finally someplace, and you don't feel that, what do you want? Look, like, how can I help you just to get rid of you? It's a difference. So it's very, very important not for people to let the polls influence them. They need to get out there and vote to make sure their vote was counted.
Right.
Do you anticipate voter anticipation with all that's going on with the racial tensions and all? Do you anticipate that some Blacks will be scared and stay home not to go and vote?
Normally, let me tell you, in 2016, in Philadelphia, 339,000 black people did not vote in Philadelphia. Trump took the whole state of Pennsylvania with 44,000 votes. If black people would have came out and voted, then Pennsylvania would not have went to Trump. In Miami, 279,000 blacks did not vote. Donald Trump took Miami, the state of Florida, for 33,000 votes. Same thing in Detroit and Wisconsin. Okay, Michigan. So what I'm saying to you is that if you don't vote, it's automatically vote for Trump.
Good.
Because Trump is going to get his people's.
Yeah, we're going to stay this last question on the election, then we'll move on to there's Amendment 4 that passed in Florida that allows people with previous felony convictions who have served their time to now register and vote. That Amendment 4 passed in 2018, and it's expected that it would put about 1.5 million new voters on the voter rolls in Florida. And you and I both know that due to injustices in the system, those with felony conviction tend to be minorities. So if, as Kweku is saying, if Trump took Florida by 44,000 votes, and now you're going to have 1.5 million new voters in Florida, majority of whom are minorities. What does that say about Florida in 2020?
That if they go and vote, if they exercise their right to vote, then what's going to happen is he will never take Florida again. He will never take it. Make sure that block who has the right to vote now actually goes out and vote. There's no way. And that is the reason why you have voter suppression now going on. Because the Republicans and the white supremacists and all those who really want to keep black people wherever they think we should be, they are suppressing the vote. They're closing the polls in our neighborhoods so that way we will stand on long lines for hours and hours and hours to vote. But we also know as strategists that the way to overcome that is the mail-in ballot, right? So we're pushing a number of agendas from our one. One is making sure you're registered, make sure your family is registered, but make sure that you don't have to work, don't stand on the line. Submit a mail-in ballot, right? And that's why you see the administration. You see the administration fighting against mail-in ballot because they know that that's the we have another strategy.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
I'll give you another example. First of all, it's about 7 states that do not allow felons to vote. So we got a lot of more work to do. Florida's not the only state who does that. Give you an example.
Okay.
And in Georgia, Atlanta, one city, 30,000 blacks didn't vote. Okay. And Trump won Georgia by 200,000 votes. Now that's just one city, Atlanta. And he did the same thing again. We talked about the Florida thing. 379,000 blacks didn't vote who were registered, who were already registered. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So again, we got a whole new strategy we call early voting.
But why do you need to get rid of Trump? He says he's done more for blacks than anybody, than Jesus Christ did.
We're not answering that question. You listen, we don't even need to answer.
That's a distraction.
Don't let us get started. Don't let us get started.
Listen, let me do like this. Donald Trump was a nice person.
You did see that he tweeted today.
He represents the worst of us.
Okay, let's move to our.
But let me just say that you see he tweeted.
Go ahead.
That Black Lives Matter is a group. Did you see that? You see he tweeted today?
What did he say? What did he say?
He said Black Lives Matters is a hate group.
Oh, of course. Of course.
He said
Yes. Okay. So now let's talk about Africa. Let's talk about I have Ifia here and I have Kweku here. what is the significance of African Americans in terms of when it comes to African development?
Okay, here's the deal. One of your homeboys from Ghana visited us in Philly, and he asked a question. He came to our office, and he said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure, brother." He said, "It seems to be a problem between Africans and African Americans. Do you think that exists?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, can you tell me why African Americans don't like Africans?" I said, "Well, I don't speak for African Americans." He said, "Well, do you have a problem with Africans?" I said, "Yes, I do." So he sat up in a chair. He said, what's the problem?" I said, "Well, you never came back to get us. See, we've been abused. We've been abused, imprisoned, oppressed, beat up, pushed out, rolled over for over 400 years. Now, African Americans, we got all the education and skill, we got money, we got everything. The development of Africa is contingent on the infusion between African Americans and Africa. That's where we belong at. We belong, we're here to help Africa grow. You see what I'm saying? Because we was raised up in the belly of the beast. And we got a lot of brilliant.
So it's interesting. It's interesting you bring that up because I really want to talk about the apparent disconnect between Africans and African Americans. Some of us, I'm proud to say that some of us have been able to rise above that, and we truly see brothers and sisters on both sides. But the fact remains that on both sides, we have people who feel like, oh, y'all, and then y'all. When are we going to be able, what does it take to be able to put it together? Because it seemed to me that those of us who believe in the brotherhood between Africans and African Americans on both sides, we're a minority. But the majority seem to think that they are such and such, they are such and such. What's it going to take to put us together?
Well, you know what? Let me just say, I honestly think, and I may be wrong, that's a trick of the white man. I mean, there are people who don't want to have anything to do with Africa, and there's people on the African side who think that we're this, that, the other. But honestly, I don't think that's the majority. I mean, I really don't. I think that we have listened to the media make us think that we're separated, that we're not together, that we don't support each other for so long that we have embraced that as truth. And I don't know if I believe that. Because honestly, I'm going to say that probably a high 85-90% of my friends, guess what? If they could get back to Africa, they would. They just don't know enough about it. So once it's going to take us, those of us who have traveled, who've taken the journey to Africa, to make sure we educating our people. That's all. I mean, when I show people the pictures of Africa, they're like, really? It looks like this? Because they've been tricked their entire life to think that the airplanes fly into Africa trees and we slide down the trees at the airport. That's what they believe. They don't know. Again, that's what they've been raised on in the media. But the moment we show them the beauty of Africa, the moment we show them that, yes, well, look at Dr. Sandi's skin. She only uses African products, right? I mean, look at her. Look, I mean, you see what I'm saying? So we have to be very careful that we make that statement about the separation of our people, because that's what the white man will want us to believe, that we're not together.
Right. Okay, Mukweku, your take.
I ditto what Dr. Sandi said. Unfortunately, some of the Africans that come here, I've talked to a few of them, and I've been able to visit. Again, like I say, I've been all over South Africa. I've been to Botswana. I've been to Zaire. I've been to Ghana. I've been to these places, and I've been told that, because I raised the question, what's this attitude that Africans have towards African American men? I raised the question myself. They say, well, man, y'all guys ain't pure African. Like, y'all not the really true black people. You know, y'all been like, y'all
Somebody told you that?
know?
Wait, somebody told you that? Where?
Somebody told more than one person. That's right. They told us that matter of fact, they say, y'all born in the land of rich, but y'all don't know how to do nothing. You're not free. You're still enslaved. Like, y'all ain't nothing. Like, y'all are broken people. I mean, really. You know what's interesting about all the murders and lynchings? You always got just one black person being murdered by a whole bunch of cops. They don't, I mean, when you really get into the dynamic, I don't want to waste up all your time, but again.
No, you see, this thing. Go ahead.
Don.
I just want to add something to that. So again, to me, it comes back to education. We just need to make sure, as African Americans and those of us on the African side who understand it, that we're constantly correcting and educating our people. No, we need to just educate them. They just don't know. I mean, when I first came to Africa, the first time I went to Ghana, I mean, everybody didn't really accept me. I'm friendly and outgoing and things like that, but people had to warm up to me. Like, is she real? Is she like, let's get to know her, right? But once they got to know me and I got to know them, then we began to have a mutual love for each other. I mean, they didn't know why would they trust me? Why would an African trust me? I'm just arriving on the land, right? I'm able to live in a high-end residence, right? I have a driver. Someone's shopping at the market for me. So why would they trust me? So again, it is a matter of education. We have, not only that, I understand that when we did the thing with Ambassador Bennett, we found that even in the schools in Ghana, the children are not even taught about the transatlantic slave trade. They knew nothing about the slave castles, the slave caves. So it's just a matter of, you have to educate the people in the African end, educate the people in the African American end, so that people will come to a mutual respect and understanding of each other. We don't judge it, and we don't talk.
I have an issue here. And as an African who has lived in America, and believe you me, I've had this conversation on both sides. What I'm having with you, with my people. And I ask them, when Africans complain that, African Americans, you have all this opportunities, you don't take advantage of them, you're constantly complaining about white people, yada, 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 right? And my question, maybe you can help me answer this. We in Africa, we've had our independence for 60 years on average per country. 60 years we've been at the control of our own countries. And 60 years later, we complain about what the white man is constantly doing to us. And we use that as an excuse why we don't move forward. But when we come to America, we complain. We don't understand why the African American can legitimately complain about what the white man is still doing to him today, who is in control. I don't understand that. Maybe you guys can explain that to me. Because you have to still deal with the white man today. You still have to deal with the white man today. When you drive out of your house, you see him in your rearview mirror. When you show up at the work, you see him. You live with them. But you don't have any right to complain what he does to you. But we in Africa we have every right to complain what the white man is doing to us, and the white man's been gone for 60 years. Somebody explain that.
Well, first of all,
clarify the question for me. Clarify the question for me again. So the question is why
is it that we Africans have the right to complain, to use the white man as an excuse for why we're not moving forward fast enough? But we think you African Americans in America don't have the right to use the white man as an excuse. Why are you still living with them today?
Okay, let me share this with you. Here's the trend for the Black America. When the Black stands up, his career goes down.
If black stands up,
when he stands up to complain, when he's not compliant, when he don't humble himself, then his life becomes in danger.
Okay.
We present more in the penal system here in America. Majority of the people who are in jail in the country are what color?
Okay.
They're
All
black.
right. So,
So what I'm telling you is that there's two different economies here. There's there's two different cultures here. Most black people, regardless of them, operate on a level of survival.
okay.
See, it's not so much about eating. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? It's about staying off the radar. If you can understand that.
Let me talk about the year of return and the continuation.
Can I add something to that? I just want to answer.
Go ahead.
I want to answer your question.
Go ahead.
Kind of back on what Mr. Curtis said. I also think that the reason why Africans they feel that way is because they remember they're Africans. They were born, raised in Africa. That's what they know. They don't know our experience, not really. I mean, all they know is what they see, what they've heard, or what they've been told. And they embrace that again as truth, right? So of course they would, the same way we have an attitude about African based on something we've heard or we read or we were told, Africans have the same perspective about us. But that doesn't make it necessarily.
Okay, so the issue that you're pointing out is misinformation, but we have control of our media too. It's not as if we get all our information from CNN or CNBC. We have BET over here in Africa. We have DNT now. Why aren't we using that to counter that false narrative and educate ourselves better?
You should. No, really. I mean, we absolutely should be able to. But I think as more African Americans make that transition, we have a whole thing going on in America now with African Americans want to return to Africa, right? And all African countries, we embrace you, we embrace you. I think as more of that happens, we'll begin. But it's going to take time because this stuff is systemic. So we have to give it time to work. We have to give it time to work.
Okay, great.
Now,
go ahead, quick.
If you took Ghana, for example, and you look at their budget, like most African countries, their debt exceeds their profitability. You see other countries, China, France, all these European countries, Asian countries, you see that they are having so much influence on African countries, it's unbelievable. So again, you wonder, if Africa has been free for 60 years, why is it that they reach out for every other group, but they don't come to African Americans? And we represent $1 trillion a year.
Very good question.
We don't have any education.
Good question.
They don't have education.
You see, now, Kweku, what you just said is actually a very good transition to the year of return. African Americans responded to the mass, to the invitation. And now we have Beyond the Return, which has been truncated by COVID-19. But we think next year, Beyond the Return is probably going to be on a whole new level. Do you think there's a good chunk of the African American population that, given the opportunity, would relocate to the continent? There are 53 countries, 54 countries they can choose from. Do you think there is that yearning to return and settle here?
I'm glad you asked that question. Let me tell you what we propose. We have an organization called Africa Reconnect. We want to African Americans reconnect to Africa. And like your president, Ghana, says, when I did my African ancestry in Ghana, Everybody who DNA says you come from Ghana or whatever country, give them actual citizenship so they can invest in that country, make that connection live. And in tourism, we're talking about the cultivation of humanity, man. The world is suffering.
Right now, I can tell you this, that Gabon and Sierra Leone, I know, have that program. In fact, Samuel Jackson, you know him, he's Gabonese, right? And so basically these two countries, I think, and I'm reliably informed that when you do your DNA test and it puts you in those countries, you qualify for citizenship. And I think you're making a good point here. This is something that maybe the United African Union can start to talk about it. If you do your DNA and it puts you in a country, maybe you should qualify for citizenship. Would that make a difference?
Absolutely. And it's one thing that America taught Black people, Africa, don't trust Black people. But if we can take our money and feel comfortable about it in Africa, and it'll be safe no matter what happens, coups or whatever, the money. Now, see, we got to distrust it. Black people, we want to come here. We need to be there.
We wake up every morning to different stories from politics, business, sports, and entertainment. These stories, one way or the other, affect our lifestyle and dealings with family, friends, and business associates. Your take on Diaspora Network Television gives you an opportunity to have your take on these pertinent issues via phone in and messages to our social media platforms, DNT Ghana on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If it's an important trending story, we will definitely talk about it. Your take with me, Yalsichi, on DNT.
Would you buy anything without first knowing exactly what the product was and how it could benefit you? Definitely not. Neither should you vote for your next member of parliament without knowing who they are and how they plan to solve your problems. Watch The Next MP only on Diaspora Network Television and find out the men and women who want to represent you in parliament. The Next MP only on DNT.
Let's talk about investment in Africa, right? Now, there is something that I will personally say this. Of the stories that they've been told that corruption, a lot of stories aren't true. The reality is a lot of African countries are struggling with corruption. So let me put that as a preface, all right? Now, you are coming into the continent with a different standard. You did not grow up in an environment where people sell their votes for a mobile phone or $5 or whatever. So when you come here, you're going to be encountered with a whole new set of realities. How are you going to deal with that? And how would that impact you investing your money into this environment?
Well, I think Dr. Sandi got a personal question if she wants to share it. What happened to her when she I'm not trying to put you
it will not, no, really, for me, it will not. I still need to invest in other land. Now, I may not, you may have to be selective. You may need to be selective and make sure you're talking to the right people, because a lot of people talk and nothing's happening. I mean, that's here in America. But I think that we absolutely must do that. We have to look beyond like they say, the trees to the forest, however that saying goes, because there are some good investments there, and we have to start somewhere. Yes, it's going to be. I mean, when I first came to Ghana, I wanted to do everything. I thought, okay, gold, silver, all of that. But I realized, well, no, not necessarily that, Sandi, but there is something that you can do. So I invested in education. That was my thing. Let me invest. Let me every penny I have and every dollar I can raise in America into educating young girls, right? Empowering young girls to become the very best they can be. So I think that people simply need to find their lane. Don't be discouraged, right? All the stuff about corruption. There's corruption here. We got a corrupt government right now, right? We have a corrupt government right now who allow a Russian country to kill our military, our men and women in. So that's corrupt.
Okay.
So you see what I'm saying? So let's understand. Let's make corrupt relative and understand that there is something we can do.
Okay. Let me follow up with you, Ifya, 1 second. I'll follow up with Ifya. I'll come to you in a minute, Ifya, but let me follow up with you. I gave you the bad news first. The good news is that you can actually invest in the treasury bonds of every country in Africa, and you get twice or sometimes 3 times the return that you would if you invested that money in, and just invest in treasury bonds in those countries. You get 3 times what you get in America. Would that does that sound attractive for you?
Send me the link.
Well, here's the question. Do you have FDIC? Do you have FDIC?
Okay.
You got insurance to back that up?
Send me the link.
Okay.
No, I'm serious.
Here's another issue.
And let me just finish this one point. Send me the link. Years ago, I actually invested in gold and diamonds and rice in Sierra Leone, right?
Okay.
Right. And so, and we did good. We made a lot of money. Ended up losing it all, but we made a lot of money. So I know everything is timing. So again, I'm interested in seeing more about that because I understand from an investor perspective that everything is timing. You have to know when to go in and you have to know when to pull out.
Okay,
you really
good. So we'll send you, DNT will send you the link. And Kweku, where were you? Okay, Kweku, go ahead, please.
I have a friend of mine who put $1 billion on the table for Africa. I got all the clips. It was maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And he asked for proposals. And so the proposals that the various Africans put on the table wasn't really nothing mega, But the point is, the one question that the investor asks each country is, how do you get your money out? You can put it in,
but
how do you get it out? Confusion. When you look at the immigration laws of Africa, a lot of countries, they have a lot of restrictions on ownership and getting your money out of those countries. So is that being addressed?
Okay. All right. So let's talk about citizenship. I think we talked about citizenship a minute ago. I, Jermaine Nkrumah, was born and raised in Ghana. I go to America, I pick up an American citizenship, so now I'm dual. And just because I picked up American citizenship, there are positions that I cannot pick up here. I cannot be elected to parliament, I cannot be president. There's a whole laundry list of positions that I cannot be. If African Americans are coming to the continent, and by the way, let me also say that in Sierra Leone, a Sierra Leonean who was born and raised in Sierra Leone, but went to United States or anywhere else to pick up another citizenship, he cannot be president. But a child that he has, who's a full American of Sierra Leonean descent, can come back and become president of Sierra Leone. It's a little bit murky. So with that as a backdrop, when you, Kweku, your DNA put you in Ghana. Ifya, your DNA put you in Cameroon and Nigeria. Even if they gave you the citizenship, there are things you cannot be. You cannot run for office in Ghana. Would that make a difference to you?
Not really.
Okay.
Because I was taught the Canadians whose ideals and mine are in alignment. Because see, over time, a lot of change because it's nothing but foolishness. You see,
Okay.
but again, I learned to maximize the noun time, not whine, not complain. We're the common ground. Let's start there, and hopefully that will grow and expand. So, you know, I'm always about finding the common ground.
Okay. What about you, Afia?
This is what I wanted to say.
So,
Before you start. 1 minute, Doc. See, educator. And one of the things that I would love to see is a national policy for African American studies, for African Americans and white people, so that both groups can be taught about the real history of African Americans, the real history of Africa. See, white people don't even want to talk about it. They don't even want to recognize slavery. They said they had nothing to do with it. That was whenever.
Right.
So education is the key for transformation.
Education is key.
Yeah.
Afia, would it make any difference to you?
No, it really wouldn't, because, you know, I was offered, the president of Ghana offered me citizenship. What happened was I was supposed to be back in Ghana in March when they had the ceremony, but COVID stopped. So I already have all my, and as soon as I get back, I'll get my citizenship. You know, I'll go to the official ceremony. So, but that doesn't make a difference for me. You know, I'm grassroots. You know, I'm community based. I don't need to. You don't need to see my name on anything. I don't need to be. No, I don't care about that. I can do my work behind the scenes and be just as effective in front of the scenes. So that doesn't make any difference at all. And not only that, I think the only difference that it will really make is a difference of pride. To know that the country of my origin, of my ancestors, has accepted me back.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, finally, let's, to both of you, African unity. Do you think the leadership in Africa is doing enough to unite the continent? Let me start with you, Afia.
When you say unite the continent, unite the U.S., I mean, African Americans with the continent, or?
No, I mean, uniting the continent, the African continent, different countries and everything. We first have to unite a continent. We basically have to unite Black people around the world. But it starts with us liking each other, because if I'm in Ghana and I don't like someone right next door in Togo, it stands to reason that I may not even like the Black person who lives across the Atlantic. And so I think unity starts with us uniting the continent. Where do you see in that regard?
I know, I completely agree with that. I think that the continent has to continue, because right now I see countrywide unification, like unification in Ghana, or the people, like I have friends in Togo, they talk about unification in Togo, or you hear about things going on in Nigeria. But I think that there must be more interconnection between the countries in Africa, that way you have a block, you know, like a block of countries, you know, welcoming people to get back. So like you said Gabon and Sierra Leone have these policies. Well, those policies should be across the continent. I mean, because otherwise that isolates Sierra Leone and Gabon a whole category. So absolutely that they need to all come together as a continent and work together.
Yeah.
All right. African unity.
When we were when I was in Ghana August or whenever it was, and I met with the Minister of International Trade, the brother said to me that in October, I believe, last year, 22 African countries signed a document so they have due trade amongst themselves. So now they're starting to come together on a commerce side, which I think is very, very, very important. Also at the same time, if I'm not mistaken, in Ghana, there was these two groups of Africans that's been enemies for over 500 years. They had this big festival. I wish I can remember the name of the group. Maybe Dr. there together in the country at the same time. They came together, and the chief of the Ashantis had his 21-year anniversary celebration. and he brought the groups together, and it was really, really big. But can you imagine two neighboring villages been in 500 years? But yet it still took 500 years to find peace. So again, things move when it comes to people changing their attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. It comes slowly over a period of time. That's the reality.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap up. Go ahead, Efia.
I think we're in a now. I think things are happening. You know, everything is about timing and spiritual awakening. And I think spiritually, you know, we have a spiritual awakening going on around the world where people are beginning to wake up, right? And I think they're waking up in Africa. I think they're waking up in Africa, and I think African Americans are waking up. And I think that's what our hope should be. Our hope should be in a spiritual movement that opens people's eyes and come together. But I think we're in an accelerated time. I don't know if I will get to see the end of it in my lifetime, but I'm happy to know that I'm alive today to see it coming about.
Yeah. And you see that for the first time, when this George Floyd issue came, the ambassador of Burkina Faso to the United Nations wrote a letter on behalf of the entire African Union, wanted to force a debate at the United Nations, on human rights, and they specifically named United States. Now, everybody started clapping, and the next thing we knew, United States had forced United Nations to back off on that debate because they said it named them independently. What do you think should that debate come about? Because United States can say that, well, you named us. The United States has named specific country, accused specific countries on human rights injustices. So why can't the African Union specifically name United States on human rights injustices that played out in plain view to the whole world? Why shouldn't
they? Should. Oh no, they should.
Okay.
They should be. The problem, I'm gonna tell you, the challenge is that they should call them out. But again, I think that's a whole another issue about unification and how this awakening, because look at Ambassador Arikana, powerful. Ambassador Arikana has a message for the world. She has a message for Africans and African Americans, but they shut her up, didn't they? They shut her up, but that should never have happened. That should never have happened. So it happened because, again, as the whole awakening that we have the whole unification across the country they didn't stand together. So yes, the United States should be held accountable.
Right. And talking about Ambassador, talking about Ambassador Chiomborikwa, I just received a message from her. She said, where's the message? My billboard on New York Times Square since 10 a.m. today. They have a billboard for, they have a billboard of Ambassador Arikana Chiomborikwa at Times Square since 10 a.m. today.
Really?
AKA, wow. So on that note, I want to thank you, Dr. Sandi Williams, AKA Efia, right? And Mr. Vincent Curtis, AKA Kwaku. I want to, excuse me, I want to thank both of you for joining us on Diaspora Weekly, and we'd love to have you back.
Sure, thank you for having me.